Hello everyone, Nordic Beast here, and welcome back to the Shipyard. So today I am feeling a bit better. My arm is still in a cast and everything, and it's obviously going to be a few weeks till it fully heals, but it is feeling much better today, so I can actually use it to maneuver around and stuff. So, also, I may have fixed my resolution issues, so hopefully this will be the first recording of what the rest of my Space Engineers videos will look like, I hope. So, alright, that being said, today's going to be a bit of a rant video, so I'm sorry if you don't like rants all that much, but this is just something that's been bothering me lately. It's something I see all over the workshop, and it's happened to me recently, so I figured I'd talk about it. And for me, it's the difference between inspiration and copying someone's design. I have no problem with somebody being inspired. In fact, I don't even have any problem with somebody copying a design, as long as you state, hey, this is not my design. You know, even if you're inspired by somebody's design, I don't think you even have to say anything then. You can say, well, you know, I suppose if it's really important to you, say, hey, I was inspired by this person's design, but it's an original design that just looks similar to that one. If it's copied, if you copied their blueprint, altered it, and then posted it as your own, you should say, this is not my original design. And don't put this was inspired by someone's design, because that's copied, not inspired. So, where's my ships here? Here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and start with my Raven series over here. So, too far. Sorry, broken hand or broken wrist, whatever, or arm. Because actually the break is my arm, but right next to the wrist. So anyway, so my original Raven design. Which this is actually, it is inspired by a different design. If I can find a picture, I'll post it here. There was another game called X-Plane. It's a flight sim. You could design and build your own aircraft using actual physics and such. The designer of the game himself had a couple example aircraft to show you how to design your own aircraft. This was one of them, and it was an anime-inspired fighter, and I thought it was cool, so I used the same layout for this design. But otherwise, I had to use my own artistic liberties to actually design the fighter to work. So the Raven itself is actually inspired, but not a copy. So then one day I happened to stumble upon this. And at first I was annoyed. I see it because I'm on the workshop every freaking day. Even since my arm's been screwed up, I'm still on there looking at mods and people's designs and things like that. So anyway, so I saw this, and as soon as I went into the actual blueprint, it says right at the bottom, this is not my design. Kudos to the person who had designed it. And I was like, awesome. So I ended up critiquing it. I was like, hey, I'm the original designer. I like that you did this and this, but I don't like this and this. So the reason he had done this was a friend of his had my blueprint. A friend of his had posted it, but at the time, it was that week after the rebalance, and the batteries didn't work anymore. And the Raven, the original Raven down there, is actually battery powered. So he made this one reactor powered, but it made it heavier, so I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that it was heavier. And then he added these two Gatling guns here and here, which would dig into the side of the fighter if you were maneuvering while shooting. So I told him that. I was like, oh, I don't like the fact that it's heavier, but I do understand why you made it reactor powered. I was like, I don't like the guns, and I explained why. And then in his comments, he had said there was no oxygen in it, which isn't true. This is one of the few small ships I've ever made that has both an oxygen generator and oxygen tank. In fact, you can see the generator right there. And yeah, you can see it right there too. So I don't know what the hell he was talking about. So this didn't bother me. It didn't bother me at all, because he stated, hey, this is not my design. And actually, this inspired me to redesign the Raven to make it reactor powered. So this is my re-release of the Raven. I also added two guns instead of just the single. The single was just too underpowered. And this is actually, oops, sorry, there was a little lag spike there. This is actually pretty popular on the workshop. It's got quite a few views, quite a few downloads. So then one day I happened to stumble upon this. And this is what started my whole problem that got me pissed off. The person who designed this did not state that it wasn't their design. In fact, there was no info in the description whatsoever, only its long-ass name, which they call like the Sparrow or some shit. Yeah, the Sparrow. So, the main thing that they did is they reworked some of the body, added a couple more rocket pods, and they reworked the tail end here. Removed one of the thrusters, which I don't know why you'd add a bunch of weight and then remove one of the thrusters. And just they posted it as is. And then in a comment somebody put +1 for the design and for using vanilla blocks. Well, that sounds like something I've heard before. But all they put was, yay, a comment! And that was it. Not, hey, this isn't actually my design, or hey, thanks for saying something. No, just yay, a comment. So then I comment saying, hey, I'm the original creator, and I don't get any credit for this. So they got all pissy about it, tagged me saying, it's inspired by Nordic Beast, and then got pissed off saying that, hey, you stole your color design from some of my earlier fighters. Like that has anything to do with him copying my work and posting it as his own. Oh, the God, that just pissed me off so very much. So, somebody else was arguing with him about it. He ended up deleting all the comments, which I guess he just didn't like someone bringing to light that he was stealing somebody else's work. And he ended up eventually copying my longbow fighter, too. So it's like, after all the shit that happened with that, he's like, I'm going to go ahead and copy another one of your fighters. I'll say, he put a lot more work into this one, but he ended up posting, he put, it was inspired by Nordic Beast's long box fighter. Like, really? You couldn't even get the fucking name right? God. Sorry, it infuriates me so much. But like I said, he put more work into this one than into that one, which, has some reworked parts of it. This one is pretty heavily reworked, but you can still tell he took the blueprint and then redesigned the blueprint and posted it as his own. And, again, said it was inspired. So, I will give you an example of inspired. Actually, this is a better example of inspired. So this here is Dracul's Ares fighter. This is the one that ended up beating my Vengeance fighter in a dogfight. Just barely. Like, oh, God, it still drives me nuts. The goddamn thing was half destroyed and on fire, and it still beat the Vengeance. But anyway, well, he was quite happy about that because I ended up killing him like twice before that, and he thought the Ares was going to be crap, and instead the Ares ended up kicking the shit out of me, like hardcore in the end. So, the Ares is one of the sexiest looking fighters I've ever seen. I love this design. It's just awesome. It inspired me to build the Nid fighter. Like, you can see features from it that are in the Nid fighter, but it is clearly not a copy. It has like the winglets. I really like the winglet design and like the central mounted cockpit and all that. And then even later on, you can see in the Sparrowhawk, same thing. Like, well, that was another thing I noticed about it. I liked like these little winglets that kind of come up. So that's what you see here, but over exaggerated. And then of course the actual like wing design is actually pretty much, well, no, it's bigger on the Sparrowhawk, but it's obviously not a copy. I didn't just copy and paste his design, add a couple of blocks, and say, hey, this is mine. Has nothing to do with him. It's mine. These are inspired by Dracul's design. But then again, Dracul and I have been building so long, and so long together, that half of our designs, you can't tell who built them. In fact, give me a second. Let me bring up one with a little bit of a story that comes... Well, first off, there's the Falcon. Oops, sorry. If you look at the picture there, there's the Falcon, and then Falcon I put Drac, because it looks like something that he would have built. Though he, again, I've talked about this before, he took one look at this design and was like, I would never build something that fat, and then dismissed it completely. But I mean, it looks, that's why I made this in his color here, because it looks like something he would design, except for how wide it is. He didn't like that, but I ended up building it. This was my design. And then if you look here, where is it? The Gnat. So the other day we were building, this is maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I designed a fighter I think you'll love. And I showed him this. This is my Gnat. It's designed as like a disposable fighter. Think TIE fighter in Space Engineers. He took one look at it, copied the blueprint, and was like, I'm going to claim this as mine. And, like, honestly, he could post it and say, hey, this is mine, and it wouldn't bother me. But just because we've been building so long together, this does look like something he would build. I mean, seriously. And, but, no. I know he wouldn't do something like that. But if he was like, hey, can I post this? I'd be like, yeah, no big deal. You know, A, because he asked me. And B, because this fighter design really is inspired by things he has done. And, again, we have worked together so long that you can't half the time tell the difference between what's mine and what's his anymore. Our building styles have inspired one another so very much. So, yeah. And you look over here, we have the Salvador. If you guys haven't seen the Salvador, one of the coolest goddamn ships and most detailed ships and with vanilla blocks I've ever seen in Space Engineers. It inspired the Glorious. You can tell the Glorious is not a copy and paste of that ship. Has features from it. It has like design features from it that are quite obviously taken from it. Like, you know, pretty much the overall layout of it and even like the angled shape of it and such. But it is way smaller and doesn't use like the half ground down blocks for detail and such, which is cool. But again, I always think in the idea of, can I use this on a server? You can't build the Salvador on a server. You'd need to copy and paste it. Otherwise, you'd build it, and then you have to half grind down all the blocks to get the desired look. Which, then just for looks, takes 10 times longer to build a ship. You know? So, yeah. But, again, even when I talked about the Glorious, the first time I showed it off, I said it was heavily inspired by the Salvador. And even if I eventually do post blueprints of it, which I'm sorry, by the way, there's no turrets on this one. There's some glitch with the blueprint about it. I don't know what's going on with that, and I didn't want to post it and have the gun start shooting at everything. So, but yeah, even if I do post it eventually, I'll feel a little weird about it just because of how obvious of an inspiration it is. But again, I didn't copy it. I didn't say, hey, this is mine. No, because people would start calling me out, like saying, hey, that's not yours. You just copied the Salvador. You put a new paint job on it and said this was yours. You know? Alright, so this fighter here, the Raven, this inspired me to build this. It's basically just a vanilla version of this ship, which is a ship I've been subscribed to forever. And just one day I happened to go into the world and I'm like, oh, this is a cool ship. I bet you I could build a vanilla version. And this was the vanilla version. I've never posted in any videos. I've never even talked about it until now. It's just, again, it's just a vanilla representation. I had to, again, take some artistic liberties with it to get the vanilla parts to work. But even still, if I were to post this, I would say this is not my design and then post that. But it was this vanilla build that got me to build this, which is also partially designed from a drawing I had done a long time ago of a fighter based on a leaf. I used to be in landscaping. I saw a leaf one day. I'm like, that would make a cool plane. So eventually a leaf inspired me to draw a plane that inspired me to build this, based partially on that. And then this evolved into the wolf. So the wolf, you could say, is descended from this design. It's distantly inspired, but it is not a copy of it. It's just, again, a natural evolution down the line. So yeah, that's my rant on inspiration and actually stealing someone's design. A lot of the features in my ships are features I've seen on other designs, where I'll just be like, oh, I like how they do this, or I like how they do that. I'm going to try that. But I don't just flat out steal their design and say, hey, this is mine. You know, that just bothers the crap out of me. Who the hell does that? You know, like, again, it would be like, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to go ahead and put this in my blueprints and then post it on the workshop and say it's mine. Who the fuck does that? Oh, maybe I'll put a couple of new blocks on there too. Nobody'll know. You know, it's just, oh. So, yeah, that's my rant on that. So thanks for sticking with me through that thus far. So, last thing is this little fighter here that I designed. I designed this the day before my accident or so, and I just haven't had a chance to really talk about it. I was just building, you know, I just trying to build something, and this is what happened to pop up. And if you notice, it's got a couple of off thrusters for planetary landings, and oh, that's not finished there. I need to fill that in. There we go. That's fixed. So yeah, I built this just to like fly around in, and it runs I think on 3 batteries, and then of course the reactor there, and they're all right in here. And I ended up slimming down the fuselage as much as possible. And also, as I was designing it, the gyros are in the wings, and I kept like trying to thin down the wings, and which eventually became the area here for the thrusters. I think the gyros are like right here, and I kept accidentally deleting the block that the gyros were on. They would explode and destroy half the wings with them, and then I wouldn't have a copy of the fighter. So I had to start from scratch on this design twice. So this is what I ended up coming up with, and it would actually be garbage if it had regular rockets. These are actually the Sidewinder missile mod, the guided missile mod I reviewed, and I mean it works pretty well. It's definitely fast and maneuverable, but I think this design would work really well if I were to remove all the weapons, and it's 23,000 kilograms, so if I had a vanilla cockpit, that's 1,000 less kilograms, or like 500 less, something like that. And then of course removing all the weapons to it as well, this would make a great scout/planetary lander, you know, just for, you know, like a Pathfinder. You know, you drop this down first to scout out ahead for where you're going to land your lander at. So I really like this design. I thought it was pretty cool. I figured I'd show it off. There we go. Sorry, it's still a little hard for me to fly. Yeah, this one doesn't roll very well. Yeah, there's the Gatlings. Hold on, I can't get my thumb in here. I love the sound of that. Hey there, graphical bug. What's going on? Are you gonna change? Yeah, you're gonna change. So, like I said, this thing handles overall pretty well. Look at all those antennae. Whee! So this design actually isn't inspired by anything. This is just, I kind of accidentally came up with this one. So, and then I decided to, like, originally I didn't have like the little like cheeks on the nose. I wanted to kind of make my nose a little different than usual, so that's what I came up with. So, all right, I'm done now. Between my ranting and then showing off my little fighter, last couple of things. DHR Mike and Lord Wiseman have been both bugging me about the Glorious Adventure series, and now that my hand is doing a little bit better, I've got plenty of time right now. I promise I will have something for the first episode finished soon, so we can get to work on that thing as soon as possible, especially now that I can at least toy around with Space Engineers. As you saw, like, my flying's not the best. I'm not, like, I wouldn't dogfight right now because my hand is not good enough for that at the moment, but I would, I can do something as of right now. Also, Wiseman keeps bringing up, and I keep forgetting about this, I still have 3 to 4 episodes of The Forest, so I'll get to editing that soon. I know it's been like a month and a half since I should have posted that. It's just one of those things where I think every time I do think about it, I'm like, oh, I don't want to edit the shit out of that right now. Like, editing takes so much time, especially for The Forest, because it can get lengthy without the editing, and I just I don't want it to be too boring. You know, I really enjoy that series too. It just, yeah. I gotta say though, the next couple episodes I think are the best thus far, and I would like to get to continue that one with DHR Mike as well, because the next couple of ones, the next 3 to 4, it's me, Lacarthian, and Wiseman, and then DHR Mike had shown some interest into playing, so I would like us all to play, and I haven't played The Forest since like maybe a week after we recorded that last episode, and I know they've come out with a couple of updates. So I haven't got to toy around with that stuff yet. So, which you'll see why we kind of have to start over at the end of the next episode, or a series of episodes. So yeah, all that'll be taken care of soon. I get the Glorious Adventures. I've got some forest episodes. Like I said, because of my arm, last few days I've been playing XCOM. I might record some XCOM, but I get very angry and frustrated and pissed when I play that. That's one that I think I would do a post commentary on while playing, and kind of like chop up the battle scenes, because those can get a bit lengthy too. But every time I have a named character, they die. I always, like, at the first mission, you get 4 people. I'll name all of them, and usually one is my wife, one it would be me, and then usually like some friends. Me and my wife lasted a while in the campaign I'm currently in, and then my wife was like, well, I ended up dying. Like, some freak thing happened and I died. I'm like, God damn it. She was a brute. She was a heavy, so she's got a machine gun and a rocket launcher, lays waste to like everything, and then finally this mech kills her. She had seriously like 40 kills and 20 missions under her belt, and then this thing kills her. I was so upset. So anyway, enough about that. Like I said, maybe I'll post some on that soon. That's another one that might be editing hell. But we'll see. Anyway, guys, if you enjoy the series, please hit the subscribe button. If you like the episode, hit the like button. I'll see you guys next time.